Hi, I'm Jeff McLean, a wealth advisor with Wells Fargo Private Bank. As the presenting sponsor for today's event, we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to show our commitment to the Silicon Slopes community, where we spend so much of our time advising entrepreneurs, founders, and executives. We have the depth and the resources, the experience to work with so many here in the community, and we're grateful for the chance to show our support for what's happening here in the Silicon Slopes area. So thanks for coming to today's event. Feel free as you watch today to find me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and we look forward to starting a conversation with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Silicon Slopes Breakfast. Excited to have nobody here, all virtual. Today we're joined by Sam and Kacie Malouf from Malouf Sleep and a few other things that we're going to talk about. 17-year-old company. Congrats on making it that far. Let's hear about the founding story, the idea, where did it come from, and how have you guys scaled it over the years?
Cool, well, I'll take that. So it was Kacie's idea. We were newlyweds, very early on newlyweds, and we were setting up our first apartment, and we were buying stuff to put in it, and one of those things was sheets.
I was working at a buffet. I just want to say that too.
A nameless buffet, but a buffet.
Say the name.
But yeah, so I was at the time sleeping on an air mattress with sheets I'd purchased at a garage sale in Mexico, and everything seemed really expensive and overpriced and pretty under-delivered. And so that was kind of where the idea to sell sheets was born, and that was how it all started. We started out sourcing kind of high-end productions from overruns in Europe initially, and then started making our own label pretty quickly after that. So that was how it all started. High thread count Egyptian cotton sheets.
Okay. So then you would find better sheets, buy them, have them shipped to you, or would you drop ship them? How would you actually get them to the customer?
Initially, yeah, we were buying from other places in the country where we weren't really designing and importing our own. So eventually we got smart, decided to kind of cut out the middleman there and started importing directly from overseas.
And so sheets was the first product. You guys have many products now. At what point did you start to think we should add new products? Was it when you had a little money in the bank or not enough money and you needed something more? How did you guys figure out your product line?
I think it was definitely not enough money situation where we just saw an opportunity. We kind of started selling some of our sheets to we were living in Oregon at the time, so some local to Oregon mattress and furniture stores, and just noticing like sheets were great, but they definitely didn't sell as well as like pillows or mattress protectors. So that was kind of the next category we took on, was just working on having a mattress protector to protect your bed, and they sell a mattress protector with almost every mattress, so it was obviously like a lot more lucrative in that way. So we started with that, and then just kept kind of learning more about the industry and moved to pillows, and from there bed frames and on. So,
and I think the early on concept was, do we open a new market and get a whole new collection of customers, or do we keep feeding the same customers more product that they want? So the idea was, let's make all the products that accompany a mattress purchase, and so that's where it kind of sequentially went through. And then ultimately, back then, it culminated in starting to create mattresses about 10 years ago. So we were one of the earlier groups that started putting mattresses compressed in a box about 10 years ago and shipping them to consumers. And so that was kind of when we had the whole package up to the mattress, and now for the last few years, we've been foraying more into furniture. So,
yeah. And so it's direct to consumer and wholesale?
These days, it's most of the business, the vast majority is wholesale. So we do some D2C, and we're actually growing that side of the business more now, but the mass majority of our company is focused on wholesale.
Okay. So you get to the point where you think you're going to sell mattresses. What's the process like to figure out, can we do it? How do we do it? Is it just a checklist? It's a pretty big, bulky thing, and
well, this is how it actually happened, which is kind of weird. But this is 10-ish years ago. So a lot of the big mattress disruptors we've seen come out in the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of the names you know. We're typically not one of those names you know, because we sell under a lot of different labels. mostly through some of the 3P channels like Amazon, Walmart, Wayfair, Overstock, et cetera. But we had a major supplier of foam that we were producing a lot of pillows with, and they always sent us updated price sheets. And one time we went to page 2 and we saw a mattress that we'd seen before on there, and we said, gosh, I wonder if this would sell. And so we bought a container of them. They sold in a week, and then we started buying more containers of them. And that's honestly kind of how it happened. We hadn't actually surveyed the market that well. It was just being aware, I think, and seeing an opportunity and saying, let's try it. And that's maybe one of the lessons I've learned through the business over time is there's some things that you should and you can research all the way and build a big plan for, and there's other things you just need to do it. And that was the case with that one, is we just needed to do it, try it, and take the loss if it was a loss, and take the win a lot further if it was that. So.
And with the new products that you've rolled out, was it just personal preference, like you hated your pillow and you wanted a better one? Was it market research? Was it a bunch of data and a data scientist figuring out the trends? How do you guys make the decisions?
Yeah, I think we definitely do a little bit of market research, but what we found is just there is a huge variety of ways people sleep and how they prefer their pillow to fill. So we probably have, I don't know, how many different kinds of pillows now?
Maybe 80.
Yeah, we have a lot of different varieties, and you can pick out a pillow and somebody will tell you that's my favorite, and then another person, I don't like that one at all. So it really was just, we started with a few and then just kind of kept tweaking them and sort of changing different things to, make different people like their pillow, and then just sort of ended up with this huge assortment. But really that's what we found is sometimes it takes a few pillows, but there's the perfect pillow out there. So yeah, a lot of different ways to figure that out.
Yeah. All right, you're building and scaling the company, and there's probably highs and lows, but what was the hardest lesson you learned, either personally, financially, emotionally, over the last 17 years?
There's so many. I don't know, hoping you have a good one.
Well, I think there's probably some other questions that'll lead to this later, but I think we bootstrapped the company in a lot of ways, but also labor-wise, just the two of us for probably 6 years or so, before we even hired or brought on additional labor to help us and expertise to help us. And so I think that was, in hindsight, that was a mistake that we'd waited so long, and it was a big learning process to understand that, hey, even though we maybe made this part of the business up or discovered this thing, there's other people that can run it and that can innovate and that can creatively think better than we can. And so I think that's was a great learning lesson. I don't know, what do you got?
Yeah, I think that one was a big one. I mean, obviously there was financial struggles the whole way along. We're still the owners of the company. We don't have any outside investors or things like that. So there were definitely times where we had young kids and as parents where we were probably are gonna have to eat out of the pantry this week. It wasn't we definitely were living very lean, and so that was challenging at times too. But yeah, I think what Sam said is really important. That's one of the big lessons that we've learned just over the past 15 years is just that we are not the smartest people, and other people can do things so much better than we can. So now our role really is to just foster people's creativity and their desire to see a project through, and just really embrace that and let people have ownership of their job, which I think is what has made our company unique.
So at some point, a successful enterprise turns the corner and you realize all right, we don't have to eat out of the pantry anymore. What was that like for you guys?
I think some of the memories that we have maybe before that are all these amazing sheets that we probably sold, some proportionally even higher luxury sheets back in the beginning than maybe we even do now. And we never slept on any of them. We'd be handling them for years, and it was gee, if I open that package,
we'd lose $200.
There goes a few $100, so nope, don't do it. So we really held off on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, maybe the turning point was when we put one of these $200 sets of sheets on our bed, and that took a few years. I don't know, that was probably 5-6 years in.
Yeah, that, or just buying a car was that was exciting, because that was something we'd really just kind of had really old cars, and I don't know. So that was exciting. Yeah.
We bought cars to fit how many sheets we could put in the cars. I mean, we did that for several different cars, and so when it was less about that, it's more about kids, but yeah.
Yeah, so we hit on this briefly, but when did you know you needed to hire someone instead of learn a part of the business yourself?
I think when Sam started like getting really skinny because he wasn't taking care of himself and eating enough, then we were like, it's probably time. And we just found somebody that we thought was going to do a good job for us and hired him, and it was really scary, like some sleepless nights as far as like, well, I hope we can pay him, but yeah, I mean, it just got to be too much for sure.
And I don't, I'd say it was also somewhat reactive. I don't think it was super planned. It was kind of, the right thing came along and everything kind of matched up, and a lot of that still happens in business, and you wish you planned everything, but it wasn't that planned, but it was the right thing. And then I think there was a lot of realization as we went of oh, you know, this isn't a waste of time to try to train somebody to do something that I know how to do really well. You know, already it was, hey, if somebody else can do that, I could do this. And where there's opportunity, there's just endless scalability. So.
Yeah. And so Cache Valley is your home. What have been the upsides and any possible downsides of being headquartered there?
You know, we, like Kacie mentioned, we started the business in Logan while we were in school, and then we moved to Oregon to pursue some other things while we were still running the business kind of out of our garage. And there was a point where we said, hey, this is the turning point. We're going to set up shop and really do this and cut off all the other, you know, distractions. And so we both had gone to school in Logan. I was originally from Logan, and we thought, hey, Logan's a good place to live. So let's go live there and work there. And I think there were a lot of unseen benefits that weren't strategically planned, again, that, you know, in hindsight now we look back, just like bedding, it's like, gee, great product to make that everybody needs it many times over in their house, and they keep replacing it. And I think some of those similarities have happened with Logan too, where it's a really good place to live. And so people that are pursuing that as a top priority, it draws them from, and really we've seen it from around, not just around the state, but from around the country. We just this week had 2 people from major metro markets that have no connection to Utah, you know, sign on and they'll come out to Logan. So I think it offers a unique insulation from the busyness of the Wasatch Front that some people enjoy for family and personal reasons. Obviously, Utah is just an amazing draw for business, people, culture, the outdoors. But we've seen Logan as maybe an even increased benefit over the typical benefits of Utah.
Yeah, we love it. It still has, like Cache Valley still really has like a small town feel, which we just love personally. That's just kind of the vibe we like to have as people. And then I just think a lot of people want to work in Cache Valley. A lot of people that have grown up there or gone to school there, like they love Cache Valley, and so it's been easy to attract employees to come to Cache Valley. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I'm always interested in with the, you know, consumer brands is supply chain, you know, from all over the world, whether it's big or small. So you've got your supply chain that you figured out over the years, and then you've got a COVID supply chain. How has that been the last 4 or 5 months?
I'll take that one. So, I mean, probably everybody involved in certain levels of business are aware of this, but I mean, if you've got a business that has much to do with e-com during this time, it's been wild. It's been wildly up, but it does put a lot of pressure on supply chain. So our company's been dealing with a whole variety of issues with respect to supply chain. We had the 301 tariffs last year that you know, hit the whole country pretty hard. We dealt with an anti-dumping lawsuit on China from the domestic mattress producers of the U.S. that was an affirmative in their case, and so we lost that 2 years ago. And then right at the beginning of COVID, so this was maybe 2 weeks into the beginning of coronavirus, the domestic producers again basically sued, or you know, took a federal case of anti-dumping against basically all the rest of the countries in the world that make mattresses. And so it shifted our coronavirus focus onto that pretty heavily. It's a big federal case. We weren't able to go appear in the hearing, and so it's been really bizarre and quite disruptive and unique to observe. But anyway, so that was on top of coronavirus. But what we've seen is brick and mortar stores, they obviously had a lot of challenges. The .coms, it's across the board. I mean, it's just upside down, crazy, everything up, and I think the averages that we see are about 200 to 250% up through coronavirus, and in a lot of cases still holding. So it's pinched. We were in a really good inventory position coming in that we'd been preparing for a variety of reasons, accidentally and intentionally, and most of our supply chain is still pretty solid. There are some blips and bumps here and there, but it's a complicated supply chain. There's over 100 production facilities we operated in globally, but it's been good. It's a crazy time because if you've got a money basket, you can just collect money right now. The challenge is everything is so disrupted that you can't take advantage of all the opportunities out there. It's also unique too because the expectation of consumers has never been lower. I mean, people don't expect things to come on time. They don't expect you to have stock, and so it's easy to satisfy both businesses and consumers. But usually our bar is like, let's take advantage of the full opportunity. Right now, you can't do everything. So. Yeah,
I don't envy the person and then people at these companies trying to figure out where the lines are breaking and what's going good and what's going bad. Yeah. So you guys obviously have competitors, just like every business, and people view competitors differently. They either pay close attention and keep close tabs, or they just say, we'll execute and serve customers, and we don't have to worry about it. How do you guys view your competition, and how do you kind of play off of them or not play off of them?
Yeah, I think we're definitely aware of what they're doing to an extent, but it's certainly not part of our focus. I think our focus is definitely like providing just like the best logistics. Like we have, 98% of the country is 2-day shipping. So that's really important to us, being able to get our stuff to our customers in a really timely manner and having amazing customer service and making sure our products are really on point and innovative. But we don't necessarily innovate off of what our competitors do. Like we're trying to innovate based on what we think is going to be successful. So I wouldn't say we spend a lot of time researching or going into depth on that. But.
Gotcha. In addition to operating and running a successful business, you guys now have a second career with a partnership with Tamarack Capital. Tell us the story behind that and how you guys are going to be a part of that team.
Sure. So we connected with Tamarack on a humanitarian charity level. We're doing some things with our foundation that works against child sex exploitation, and we had started getting involved, kind of the two organizations on that level, and then started peeling back the layers and saw there was some additional potential between us. And so I think over the years, there's kind of been a machine built in our company that can be pointed and focused in different areas. And we've mostly just self-focused it on what we do. And I think there's been a recognition that we could probably scale or apply it in different ways. And so Tamarack saw that as well. They have a unique approach to venture capital where they offer a whole suite of services to companies that join up with them. And so I think to Tamarack, we were kind of a built from nothing model that they wanted their companies to kind of see, their portfolio companies, as well as a whole vertical integration that we've built all these capabilities inside that could also magnify a lot of the potential of these companies. And so we've seen that play out over the last few months since the partnership solidified, I think, in March. And it's been fun to see, I think a lot of the horizons and future potentials of our people, they're looking at it just the same way we do of the entity in the organization of, there's more potential than what I could see. And I think it's been able to help some of these companies flourish as well.
Yeah, it's been fun to be in a position where we can kind of trust our employees to run our organization, and then we can focus a little bit of time over on that too, which has been really fun for us. Just helps you broaden the scope of what can be possible. We're really excited about the future with them.
And so obviously there will be funding and mentorship and stuff, and you guys will sit in on the pitches and help decide. What are you looking forward to the most in interacting with these young entrepreneurs?
I just think whenever I hear a really good idea, it just really I get butterflies. It just gets me really excited, and so I love sitting in on the pitches and just sort of deciding who we think is gonna do amazing things, and it just it just really gets you excited, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And then sort of mentoring and helping in any way we can these companies be successful, and then it's just gonna be really fun. Excited about that.
Yeah, I think mine's the same answer. Is I think as a company and as people, we try to look at things of like, okay, here's the opportunity, here's the asset, here's the idea, what's the max potential, and let's point everything and put as much fuel behind it as we can to get it to the max potential. And so it is really, really rewarding to see people with ideas and concepts and the volume of passion really behind that. And sometimes we were in this position too. We lacked resources, we lacked know-how, and we decided to, bang our heads against the walls for a lot of years to figure that out. But we didn't even know about that. Hey, you can find a mentor, or there can be somebody else to help you. And so, I think it's fun seeing where that potential can go, and then, helping that be realized. So.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun partnership, and it's always invigorating and stimulating to be around new ideas, and they're probably generally younger folks, and they still have that twinkle in their eye and haven't been beaten down. Yeah. So you guys are obviously married, and you've built a company, and now you're venture capital partners. How is that working? With your spouse? Do you ever turn it off, or there's a time in the house where you can't talk about beds or mattresses or venture funding, or is it constant?
Well, I want to hear Kacie's answer, because this is good couples therapy. But it's interesting. We've had a shift over the last few months, actually. I mean, Kacie, this was her idea. We ran the business together for a few years, and then she was busy mostly at home for a lot of years with kids while the company continued. And there's been a pretty big shift this year where she's gotten very involved in Tamarack, and she's come back actually to Malouf in the last few weeks, actually. She's heading up the apparel side of Down East, which we acquired, a few months ago. And so it's been interesting to see the shift from, feels like for a lot of years it was me that was, having family conflict for work reasons and different things, and been able to see her have to go through some of that recently, which is just interesting because I haven't been able to see that side. But it's also, it's unique because it goes back 15 years when we started things together, and we kind of were getting the same exposure to things. It's also different because the organization's so big now. She's working in an area, I'm working in an area, and we're doing different things. But there are some boundaries that I think we need to set because you got to unwind and unplug at some point. And we don't meet together at work. We're meeting with all the other people we work with. And so a lot of times that does bleed over to home, and I'm not sure how we're going to work with that. What's your idea?
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but as far as what it's been in the past, I think we're pretty good at, just like we do at work, we don't take offense easily. We'll apologize when something's not going right, and I think we'll just kind of continue to do that. But it's kind of hard. I don't see our relationship being we're not going to talk about work, because it's just so much a part of who we are. And when we're at home, we have 5 kids, so it's we're just parenting at that point. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll let you know. Get back to you.
Yeah, when I oftentimes will drive separately to my in-laws than with my wife, because I want the opportunity to leave early. Do you guys drive the same car to work? Carpool?
No, different schedules.
Sam gets up at 4 in the morning, and I don't. So yeah. We're close to work. It's only 5 minutes, so we're good.
Oh, that's nice. And with your kids, are they a part of the company, and would you like to include them going forward, or do you want them to go off and do their own thing?
I think it's definitely just going to be up to them. What's your interest? What do you want to do? Because at the end of the day, we don't want them to feel like this is your path in life and you don't really get a choice. So I'm big on choice. I just want them to be happy and do something that's going to be fulfilling to them. And if that's within our organization, that would be great. If that's not, then I just want them to be happy. So.
And with that, I think there's a deliberate intention that we started to realize. When the kids were little, we're just they don't even know. They used to tell me hey, are you going to come to our house? Because they called the office the warehouse. They'd be like, that's your house, this is our house, when are you going to be where? So they didn't understand. But now, as kids get older, there's a capacity there for them to learn and understand. So there has been some intention. One of our daughters during coronavirus works in the office wiping handles down all day, and so she's at least there and exposed to some things. We've had one of our sons work in the landscaping for a few years in the summers, but we've tried to involve them in our foundation. That's I think one of the real deliberate intentions is to help them become aware of other people and needs and how we can have an impact on that. And I hope they choose to be very involved at least in that. But I think, like Kacie said, the business side is just going to be like, hey, if you're into education, we don't have an education platform. Yeah, maybe you should go and do something different. But if you want to be involved in the business, you got to qualify. You got to work. I mean, that's the other thing is when you get an organization like this with people that have really plowed the ground, they're in the trenches. Like nobody's a dummy. Like everyone knows who qualifies and who's capable and who's put in the work ethic. So that's the other thing is we tell them is we're like, yeah, you don't just get to go hop in there and have an office and work at a desk. You've got to get there. So.
Yeah, that's smart. Are there any companies or mentors or people that you admire that you possibly try to mimic?
Chase?
Not that we try to mimic, but I will say that Sam really loves Dollar Tree. He just recently kind of discovered it, and every time he goes in, he just gets really, really excited, and he likes that. So we're not going to try to become Dollar Tree, but we're going to keep supporting.
Well, I discovered it like 10 years ago, but I still am in love. But yeah, I mean that's one of those. Just from a curiosity business perspective, it's one of those paradigms. It's just hard to understand how that much value can be created for the cost, and that I think that's interesting on a human level. It's interesting on a business level where you say that's real value, and I think that's what we all. Well, maybe not at $1, but I think that's the goal as a company is you're serving a customer, and if you don't create value, you'll die. And if you create value, it'll keep going. So the Dollar Tree for me keeps me coming back. You can buy steak at the Dollar Tree. You know that?
I just love it because every time's like the first time. He's always so surprised. So
you can buy a half-gallon ice cream
that's
for
a good
$1.
company,
You know
right?
about these things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife hates it. Hates it. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before of things that we had bought at the dollar store, and I have several things that I've used for several years that cost $1, and they work as good as something that costs $20.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a tough one to understand how it works, but hopefully it doesn't go away. All right, so this is ordinarily when we open it up to questions for the audience, but let's just get a rundown of some of your latest events with your distribution center in California and what the next year looks like for you guys.
Sure. So we just announced about 2 weeks ago that after about 15 years of doing, national warehouse and product distribution out of Utah, that we're winding that down over the next couple of months. We always knew that Utah was a distribution point because we were here. When we only had one distribution point, it was not very serviceful to the East Coast, and when we had two, it actually made a lot of sense. There's a lot of companies that actually home base in Utah and then the home base in North Carolina or Virginia, and it made a lot of logistical sense. But as we've expanded, we have 5 distribution points now, and they're all strategically located to get to where the consumer population density is. It just didn't make as much sense to Utah, and so we just recently acquired a production or a distribution facility in just in the Central Valley, just north of Fresno, or south of Fresno, excuse me, north of Bakersfield in California. It's previously for the last 25 years was a Sears DC, so it's a huge giant. It's actually their center point DC for the whole country, where they would actually cross-dock off the West Coast to all their other DCs. So it's interesting. We're getting it up and running. I think it opens in about 2 weeks. So we've been hiring people that have worked there for 25 years and know the facility and the capability of the facility very well. But it's loaded with about 3 miles of conveyor systems. It's capable of shipping about 10,000 packages an hour, and can really do a lot of volume. So we're excited about that being a big muscle for the company.
And we have taken a little bit of heat in Cache Valley just as far as closing our warehouse, but what we feel like is it's really going to help us expand and move forward and be able to hire more people in Utah, as well as other places. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Very cool. Yeah, so as long as the next pandemic isn't insomnia, you guys should be good. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us for the Silicon Slopes Breakfast. It's been really fun and insightful, and I'm sure if the audience was here, they'd have a bunch of questions. So hopefully next year.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for the tip on the in-law double car thing. That's a good idea.
It's worked really good. All right, thank you.
Thanks.